Hi, my name is Maddie Carnian, and today I will be talking about Chapter 2, Leadership and Followership Communication Styles in the Leadership book. So, Chapter 2 discusses the dimensions of leadership communication style. There are three types of communication styles, so there's actually two separate variations of communication styles. The first one is authoritarian. The first model compares authoritarian, democratic, and laissez-faire leadership styles to those of the second model, which is task and interpersonal leadership styles. So, authoritarian, democratic, and laissez-faire leadership styles are three different styles that differentiate from each other. Authoritarian leadership style is where the leader has complete control over everything that the followers are doing. It gives little communication that the followers give back to the leader, and all the communication is from the leader to the followers. In the book, it says, the authoritarian leader maintains strict control over followers by directly regulating policy, procedures, and behavior. Authoritarian leaders create distance between themselves and their followers as a means of emphasizing role distinctions. So an authoritarian leader knows and loves to have those role distinctions. He doesn't want things to mesh. He doesn't want the opinions of his followers because he believes that how he is leading them is the correct way, and he wants his followers to understand that he is in complete control. And then the second type is the democratic leadership style. This is when there is a supportive communication from the leaders to the followers and from the followers back to the leaders. So the leaders will take considerations from the followers and take that into consideration into how he is leading them. And the leaders will also give, obviously, their suggestions to the followers. So, in the book, it says, leader adopting the democratic communication style encourages follower involvement and participation in the determination of goals and procedures. So the leader knows that in order for his team to succeed, he has to show his support to his followers and have them understand that he is there for them and he is there to support them and he is there to listen to them and to also take into consideration their thoughts. So the democratic leader does not feel intimidated by the followers. So this is quite different from authoritarian, because obviously authoritarian leaders do not take suggestions from their followers, but a democratic leader is not intimidated by this. They believe that two heads are better than one, and that when multiple people are working together, more success can come out of them. And the third type is called laissez-faire leadership style. This is a French word that roughly translates as leave them alone. And so this type of leadership draws from basically no leadership at all. There is basically the followers know exactly what they have to do. They're driven, they're highly motivated, and the leaders do their own work, and there's no instruction given from the leaders to the followers. In the book, it says an ineffective version of this leadership communication style involves abdication of responsibility on the part of the leader. Leaders will withdraw from followers and offer little guidance or support. So the followers know exactly what they are to do and how they are to do it, and they are not supposed to ask for questions from the leader, and the leader is not supposed to give their suggestions to the followers. So this is why it is often regarded as no leadership at all. So as we take a deeper look into these three styles, we look at how the responsibilities of the followers and how there was 6 generalizations regarding the impact of leadership style on group effectiveness. So number 1, laissez-faire and democratic leadership communication styles are not the same. Groups with laissez-faire leaders are not as productive and satisfying as a group with democratic leaders. And the amount of quality of work done by children in laissez-faire groups was less than that of democratic groups. 2, although groups headed by authoritarian leaders are often most efficient, democratic leaders are also high efficiency. 3, groups with authoritarian leadership experience more hostility and aggression than groups with democratic or laissez-faire leaders. Hostile and aggressive behavior in the form of arguing, property damage, and blaming occurred under authoritarian leadership. Number 4, authoritarian-led groups may experience discontent that is not evident on the surface. Even in authoritarian-led groups with high levels of productivity and little evidence of hostility and aggression, absenteeism and turnover were greater than in democratic and laissez-faire groups. Number 5, followers exhibit more dependence and less individuality under authoritarian leaders. Number 6, followers exhibit more commitment and cohesiveness under democratic leaders. And then we talked about how we read about how democratic leadership is the most highly regarded type of leadership because that is when there's going to be the most communication between the followers and the leaders. Authoritarian and laissez-faire type styles of leadership are not very highly supported, and they are not the most effective ways to lead groups of people because you're not going to have a high product level, and you're going to have a very high turnover rate with those two leadership styles. But in democratic leadership, this has been tested and figured out as the most effective way because you're going to be contributes to the high productivity level and to increase satisfaction, commitment, and cohesiveness. And then, so the second style was task and interpersonal leadership. So this is closely related to the 3 types that we just discussed, but it's slightly different because these researchers used different methodologies and measurement techniques, but came to similar conclusions that suggest that leadership consists of 2 primary communication dimensions, task and interpersonal. Although each group of researchers applied its own unique, the groups were essentially talking about the same set of communicative behaviors. Task-oriented communication was referred to as production-oriented, initiating structure. And interpersonal-oriented communication has been called employee-oriented, consideration, and concern for people. So in task-related communication, you're very focused on the job at hand. You want to get it done. You're willing to do what it takes to get it done, and that's why there's a high productivity level. In interpersonal communication leadership style, you have a concern for the people that are working for you and that who you're working for. So it's more people-oriented, and there's more flow of communication of the job at hand. And that is my summarization of Chapter 2 in the leadership book. The rest of the chapter also discusses 5 studies that were taken on how they came to conclusion about the 4 most significant attempts to identify the communication patterns of leaders. And so the book dives into that. And also, so that is my summarization. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.